Rearing mosquitoes with consistent size, nutrition, and health is important, as variability in mosquitoes may negatively affect your assay results. In this video, we will first describe general steps for rearing mosquitoes, followed by tips for certain species. Distilled water should be used for rearing. If distilled or purified bottled water is not available, set water out uncovered at room temperature for 24 hours to allow chlorine to off-gas. Hatching mosquitoes from eggs is species-specific, as are larval counts. Stay tuned at the end of the video for species-specific considerations. In general, mosquito larvae need to be kept in a hatching container for at least 24 hours, then counted and moved to plastic or metal trays using disposable pipettes. Once the correct number of larvae are added to the tray, pour in 1 liter of water with appropriate food for that species. Larval trays should easily hold 1 liter of water without spilling when moved around. Cover your tray loosely with the lid, not making an airtight seal. If you think your lid is airtight, cut a hole in it and cover with a fine mesh. Never use soap when cleaning rearing containers. Always label trays carefully with species type, number of larvae, and hatch date to avoid confusion later. Once larvae begin to pupate, separate them into small cups. Pupae can be sexed by size. Males are smaller than females and will pupate slightly earlier than females. Place the cups into an adult cage for emergence. We use 5-liter food service buckets with an access sleeve and a mesh top for this purpose. Add a 10% sucrose solution to the adult cage so they'll have a food source available when they emerge. Each species has optimal temperature and humidity conditions for rearing. This can be replicated in an environmental chamber or a small workspace with temperature control. A humidifier can be used to increase humidity, and light cycles can be controlled with a basic outlet timer and clamp lights. Rearing dishes should be placed in a freezer overnight to kill any remaining eggs or larvae. Aedes albopictus and Aedes aegypti eggs are collected on paper, usually filter paper or paper towel, and can be stored until needed. Egg papers are placed inside of a bag with a damp sponge to make sure the eggs do not dry out. When it is time to hatch, the eggs are submerged in water with a small amount of food, such as 1 fish pellet. Allow them to hatch for 24 to 48 hours. In this example, 200 larvae have been moved into larval trays, fed 8 fish food pellets, and allowed to develop for 6 to 7 days until they pupate. If synchronized hatching is needed, the egg sheet will need to be submerged in water for 30 minutes and then placed under a vacuum for 30 minutes. The reduction in oxygen under vacuum will stimulate most eggs to hatch in a shorter period of time than they would from soaking alone. Aedes albopictus prefer a 14-hour light, 10-hour dark cycle. Aedes aegypti prefer a 12-hour light, 12-hour dark cycle. Culex pipiens lay eggs in rafts that float on water. Unlike Aedes, Culex eggs cannot be stored until needed. For this reason, it is important to time collections according to when you will need the mosquitoes for your project. Keep each egg raft separate until they hatch. This way, you only need to ID 1 larva from each raft to confirm the mosquito species. Culex are put into larval trays in groups of 200. Larvae are fed a slurry of ground fish food, rabbit pellets, and liver powder. Make sure the bottle is shaken up, then add 20 milliliters of slurry to each larval tray. Check larvae every 2 to 3 days. If you see that most of the food has been consumed, add more. Culex are kept at 25 to 27 degrees Celsius and 75% humidity. It is optimal to keep Culex on a 14-hour light, 10-hour dark light cycle. Culiseta eggs also cannot be stored until needed. For this reason, it is also important to time collections according to when you will need mosquitoes for your project. They are put into larval trays in groups of 100. Culiseta are fed a slurry of ground fish food, rabbit pellets, and liver powder similar to Culex, but slightly different. 20 milliliters food slurry and 1 liter purified water are added to each larval tray. Trays are checked every other day. If the water looks clear, add approximately 5 milliliters of food slurry. If the water is cloudy, skip feeding. Use a folded paper towel to skim off any scum that has gathered on the top of the water. Strain larvae in reset trays with fresh water and food every 7 to 10 days. Culiseta larvae may take up to 3 weeks to pupate. Culiseta adults are kept at 25 degrees Celsius with 70% humidity on a 16-hour light, 8-hour dark cycle. For larvae, use a 15-watt incandescent light with a dark cloth barrier between the bulb and the larvae so that only a little bit of light reaches them.